Welcome to this first video with the new Insta360 camera we're using, and there'll be a lot of experimentation in this video. Firstly, apologies for the portrait angle. I will in future make sure these are landscape for YouTube. So some of you asked for commentary of what I'm doing as I'm doing it, so I'll try and do that. Here's a lovely downhill slope with some parallel turns to slow down slalom, and of course a nice long T-slide. You must be able to do long T-slides to street skate. I'm looking very carefully at this junction at the bottom of the hill, skipping the lights and lunge turning off the pavement. A few quick crossovers onto the cycle track, and then it's a lovely fast flat skate into town. So this is the first time going backwards with the Insta360, and I have to say the camera is extremely long, it's pretty heavy, and this is my least favorite angle showing backward skating. I think the camera in the lead kind of makes the upper body look a bit stunted. I think the camera's a bit too close to the ground, and you'll see in this video we'll play around with camera in the lead, at the side and trailing. You let me know which angle you think is best. So back to cross the road at the traffic lights, and those bobbles I don't really like, so I tend to jump them where possible. And tiles, bobbles, cobbles, anything that looks a bit dodgy, I quite like jumping. So I left skater Stu at the lights, and I stopped there with a lunge turn entry to Powerslide. I either use the lunge turn entry or the heel-to-heel mohawk entry. They're both pretty interchangeable for me, and that is my favorite high-speed emergency stop, and you'll see I use it quite a lot of the time. So here we are in town. I'm going to do a quick 180 up the curb and a flip back, and have a very sort of near miss with a lamppost. And I think mainly I'm first time skating with the stick. It's just quite a lot to think about. Anyway, they are resurfacing quite a lot of roads in Brighton, so we do have some nice patches. There goes skater Stu backwards with the quaddie style of crossovers and cross-unders without lifting to regroup. I tend to lift to regroup, quaddies tend not to. It's purely a stylistic issue. And with street skating, there's quite a lot of just skating on streets, and I don't know about you, but I find that not the most interesting of things. Now, I'm not going as fast as, you know, Buzzkill Blade or Stuttering Skater or Bill Stoppard, and that's because these are British streets, and British roads are pretty narrow. There's the lunge turn entry again. So I do think that UK and North American, Canadian roads are quite different in that respect. So the cycle track here goes onto the pavement, and there was a van up ahead which I thought was going straight ahead, but at the last minute he indicated left, and I jammed on my T-stop, couldn't stop, and had to quickly turn and hit my power slide. This is why it's so important that you can turn quickly both directions and that you do have an emergency stop. So now we're heading up an extremely steep hill. It doesn't look steep at all, but you can see from my very quick cadence steps, and here you see my V. Yeah, you need a V whenever you accelerate. And yeah, it's a pretty horrendous hill. So continuing up the hill, but just less steep now. This is my favorite method, is one alternating crossovers on each side. Push, crossover, stride, push, crossover, stride. So each of those strides has a V, and that creates your acceleration. And there we have a lunge stop. So we're nearly at the top of the hill now. Brighton's a very hilly city. This means the rest of this video will be either flat or downhill. And that means lots of jumping over manhole covers backwards. So I tend to jump most things backwards rather than run the risk of clipping myself. I think this side view is much better for showing, you know, the body position, particularly the knee bend and those back inverted T-slides. So it's getting steeper at the bottom here. There's a main road at the end. I'm slowing down using consecutive parallel turns. I'm about to do a T-stop, then over some horrid surface, and then the mohawk into the power slide for that main road. Now we have another backward street, so I quite like getting off the main roads. You can see the traffic there, onto quieter residential streets with a lot less traffic. There is a van up ahead, but he seems to be going about the same speed as me. And again, I like crossovers, parallel turns, and I'm mainly just kind of cruising and enjoying that speed. I sometimes find I need to jump in the middle of a crossover like that. I first did that by accident. So now we've got this fantastic, lovely long downhill. There's a park all the way on my left, and there's really no cars coming out in my direction, which is why I'll allow myself to go this fast. And there are some really large, there we go, I was going to say speed bumps, really big long speed bumps, and already needing some consecutive turns just to slow down a bit. There's another one near the bottom I'll jump onto, but mainly I'm just enjoying that speed. Sometimes life is just for cruising, right? So another downhill street here, and I checked both ways so I can go really wide on that corner. I do like that side view. I think it really shows the knee bend. So cruising backwards in scissors or doing these consecutive parallel turns, I will have much more weight on the trailing skate, the leg nearest the camera, unless I'm doing an inverted T-slide, in which case the weight goes onto the leading skate. So generally whenever you're going backwards and cruising, you want to have your weight on the trailing skate. So back in town now, often we have to make ourselves really narrow for cars to pass, and I quite like to skip junctions by just hopping on the pavement, crossing as if I'm a pedestrian. Check out my Buzzkill Blade accelerating crossover impersonation here. I'm sure she would leave me for dust, no worries. But yeah, nothing like acceleration with quick crossovers. So I skipped that corner because of a bunch of cobbles. And here we are now on Adelaide Crescent in Brighton, which is a beautiful Victorian crescent with lovely buildings going down towards the sea. And again, I do love a bit of free road in front of me. 180 over a manhole, and here a forwards waltz jump 180. Jumped over some tiny little metal covers I hadn't seen before. Narrowly missed the second one there. And yeah, just prepping for another potential stop at the bottom. But by the time I've looked around, I realised I didn't need to stop. So just a quick power slide to slow down and straight out again. So here I am on the home straight. This is down on the seafront going back the other way. There are no cars coming out to my left on road, so for this reason I can go definitely a bit faster. So that was my first Insta360 skate. What do you think? I think it's going to be a lot of fun, you know, figuring out more angles and, you know, what looks good with this camera. I will film in landscape next time. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see more of, and I'll see what I can do in the next edits.
Skating is not easy or obvious to learn, and most people do the wrong things without realizing. The focus of all my teaching is making sure people understand exactly how to find their balance on their skates, whatever the move. Each video lesson gives you a sequential list of exercises which gradually build up each part of the skill. These teaching progressions have been used in real-life classes for 2 decades, so we know they work. Check out the Learn Online section at skatefresh.com.